Mine. I'm not sure if it's from 2011 or 2013, somewhere back in that range, I believe. Maybe even a little after that. It's about finding balance, and I just figured I'd post it up here, and maybe you guys could listen and get what you could get out of it. Hopefully there's some positivity in it. Hope you guys have a good week. We'll see you again on Sunday.
Okay, I'd like to introduce our second speaker, Jason C.
My addict named Jason.
Hey, Jason.
And remember when I first came to NA, and I went to a convention. I had like 4 months clean. It was Ocean City Convention, and I was like blown away by the main speaker. And I had a sponsor that like sounded real good, and I was like, man, I just at 4 months clean, I wanted 10 years. And I wanted to be sharing at a convention. Like, that's what I wanted. And I wanted to be, like, known in an anonymous program. That's what I wanted. I wanted everybody to know my name, who I was, and say, man, that guy's great, because I didn't have any kind of self-acceptance. I didn't like me. And I needed all y'all to like me and tell me how wonderful I was, even to start to think about believing that idea. And then I remember, like, I relapsed after that, of course, and I came back, and I was a lot more humble. I learned a lot more about myself. My relapse definitely was the nuclear blast, the jarring experience that taught me what I was missing in my program. But then I remember accumulating some clean time, and then I remember like these conventions would come around every year, and nobody would ask me, and like all my friends were getting asked, and I started to get my feelings hurt, and I started to think like, man, I got respectable recovery. Why ain't anybody asking me to share a damn meeting? And, it just wasn't the right time. And I finally, like, got some peace within myself and accepted that fact that, like, why am I so pressed about this? What is the big deal? It's a meeting, And then I got asked this year, and I got all excited. Joe asked me, he's like, man, you want to share a meeting at the convention? I was like, hell yeah, I will do that, buddy. I will not miss it. I will pay $35 to come share that meeting. And then he was like, yeah, it's finding balance in recovery. And I was like, awesome, I know all about that. And then I went to my car and had to look up balance, because I'm like, what the hell is balance? I don't think I've ever had balance. I don't even know if it's an attainable goal, true balance. I don't know that it is. I know my whole life looking back and reflecting on it has been like completely unbalanced. What I'm the guy that's like on one side of the seesaw and then realizes he's like on one side of the seesaw and jumps to the other side. Like, I don't know how to even it out. I'm always on one extreme or the other, I won't sleep for a week, and then I'm like, man, so then I don't get up for a week, I go to one meeting one week and I'm like, oh, that's terrible, so I like call out of work and go to 52 meetings the next week. Like, just insanity, right? It's hard for me to find that middle place. Even as a kid, like, you get a new video game and then can't go to sleep at night because you're playing a video game all night, Every new thing that came into my life as an obsession is what I just had to be, and I had to do it totally and fully. I got to high school, and like they started talking about drugs, like these crazy looking people with this weird colored hair and misfitting clothes, and I was like, man, they look like I feel, because I feel out of place in my own body, and they were like, man, do you smoke weed? And I'm like, of course, and like we smoked some weed, and I was high, and I was like, oh, I love you, and I didn't know how to act, and then they told me later it wasn't weed, it was parsley, and I was an idiot. But then like the real drugs did come in, and the fact was like it shut that voice up in my head for the first time that said you're not enough. That voice that my whole life was there when I was like running a race and said you're not fast enough. If I was playing baseball, I couldn't throw hard enough. Whatever it was I was doing, I wasn't enough. There was always something I was missing, this hole inside, and that first drug stopped that voice for a while. It shut it off, and I felt some freedom, right? So overnight, I became a drug user. And I went from like never having touched drugs to I had to have them at all times, every day, every hour. And if I didn't, life was miserable. And so my life very quickly was controlled by drugs. It controlled how I felt. It controlled my attitude. It controlled whether I was having a good day or a bad day. And it didn't matter what it was. And like that's where it really got out of balance. Like I was kind of a smart kid and got good grades. And then I woke up one day and I had like blue hair and pants that like really didn't fit me, and I got high and I didn't go to school ever. Like I just cut every day, and it seemed like an overnight process. And I can't imagine how that looked to people who knew me before and knew me after that change. So I started doing anything and everything. You know, it didn't matter what it was. You could bring it to me. It could be over the counter, prescription, illegal. I didn't care. I was going to crush 3 up, snort them, pop 2, and then ask you what they were going to do to me. You know, that's again trying to find balance. I'd take some more uppers because I was too low, or I'd take more downers because I was too running around cleaning my room or something. People say, I can't understand you. You're talking too fast, so I'd have to do more pills. But what happened was, like, it didn't matter what situation I got stuck in, I was a chameleon, right? And that's where my entire sense of balance got lost, because I didn't like me, so y'all couldn't know who I was. Because if you knew who I was, you wouldn't like me either, you know? So I became whatever it is you guys were. You know, when I hung around the people with the crazy looking hair and stuff, like I was a rock star or whatever they were, and then I got locked up, and I was in jail for a while, and then I was a drug dealer because that's what everybody else was, and so I had to figure out how to act like I had done that before. I couldn't sell drugs, man. I couldn't stop doing them. But, you know, I'm in there telling people stories, lies, whatever. Yeah, you know, I did this. And then I met a guy who robbed a bank, so I was an armed robber for a while in there. Like, man, I wrote some bad checks. That's what I did. Like, I had a theft over 300 or whatever it was. Like, I wasn't robbing nobody. I wasn't selling no drugs. I did buy, like, a sheet of acid one time with the intention of selling it and, like, took it all in a weekend. So that wasn't balanced either. And then when I got here and people started talking about balance. And I said, man, that's something that addicts gotta have. We gotta have balance. Ain't you ever seen that person out there on the bus stop or the street corner? They're like, their head's touching the floor and they ain't spilled their drink. Like, that's balance, man, right? But what I found was, like, my life did not have balance whatsoever. I took away the drugs. I still had that hole inside. You know, the drugs were a self-medication for the fact that I hated me. The fact that I thought I wasn't enough by myself. And so once I put them down, I had to pick something else up, right? And of course they say, you know, don't get in a relationship for the first year. And like, man, relationships are the next best thing to drugs, really. Like, they will fill you up, right? They make you feel good about yourself and, you know, got your arm around her. Nobody knows if not getting in a relationship for the first year works. Nobody's ever done it. Everybody's in a relationship. And of course, like, but it's not a relationship where I dated. I didn't even understand the concept of dating. Why? Because I didn't have any balance. I had no idea. Like, I met you on Tuesday, I told you all the horrible shit about me Tuesday night, and if you were still there Wednesday, then I moved in with you, right? And I was all of a sudden, I was probably like fathering your kids all of a sudden, even though they were 10 and never met me before, and I was like 20. I dated an older chick, that was interesting. So then it progressed, and I didn't want to work. I didn't want to work at all. I spent a couple months not working too and not getting out of bed. And then I went to the other extreme and got a job and worked 8,000 hours a week because that's what I did. And then I would work they worked a lot of overtime, right? So I would work 3 whole weeks of overtime, but then I had to balance it out and like call out 3 days the next week because I couldn't get there for the regular time they had because I was so wore out from all the overtime. And NA was my life. When I got clean, NA was my life. And you know what? I think that is what I needed, but there was no balance in it whatsoever. You know? My family thought I was just as absent as I was when I was using. I was in a meeting at all times, or I was driving with somebody to a meeting, or we were going to get coffee first, or we were going to a speaker jam, or we were heading to a convention. Like, it was always something Narcotics Anonymous related, and I didn't have time for anything else. Like, it just wasn't there. And I see now how that's like shortcutting my recovery. You know, my recovery is taking these principles that you guys teach me in here and applying them in my life, in the world. You know, there's got to be some kind of fellowship. It's got to be some kind of balance between fellowship and family. I know, fellowship, right? Throw that out there. Got to be some balance in my words. And what happened was I didn't have that, and I got a sponsor, and like I said, he sounded good, and we went to these conventions, and we went around here and people speak, and I wanted to be known, and I made a relationship my higher power because that made me feel good. You know, it filled me up. It took away that hole that said I wasn't enough. You know, and she used, and then I used. And it was that easy. Like, it didn't matter that I was still hitting meetings. It didn't matter that I did step work. It didn't matter. I caused chaos in my life. You know, I didn't know how to be in a relationship. There was no balance there. I didn't understand balancing one woman. I thought, you know, you had one woman and balance 5 other ones on the side. And that didn't work. She didn't like that. And what it came down to was, like, I didn't like myself either. Right? And I became the person that had to sign up for everything and do everything that everybody wanted me to do because it was all about pleasing everybody else. I had no idea how to say no when I was asked to do something, you know, so I made my life unmanageable and put myself last so that I could please everybody else, you know. And it was miserable. It was truly miserable. And of course I used, and there wasn't any balance in using. I don't know anybody, if you guys had balance when you were out there using, like, I don't know how you made it here, but I mean, I used, and I think I lost like 25 pounds in a week. Like, it was that bad. It was that drastic. Because I had some money now, so I didn't run out of drugs for a week, a whole week. But it was insane. It was insane. My whole life was insane. I had 911 on speed dial because I thought 3 numbers was too many to hit. You know, because I thought I was going to die when I was getting high. I really did. I would do a hit. I remember specifically I did this one hit that hurt so bad. I crawled down my steps, knocked on my mother's door and said, I think I'm going to die. I just did a hit of drugs. And then I talked her ear off for 45 minutes, and then I started thinking, damn, that hit was good. And I went up and did another one. Like, that's the insanity of my addiction. There's no balance in that, you know? I remember laughing at people who would, like, they were geeking and stuff early on. I would laugh at them. I'm like, man, I'll never be like that. And then, like, there it is at the end of the road. Like, I'm in a dark room. I got a flashlight in my hand and a shoe trying to kill all the bugs on the floor. Like, I don't know what the hell was going on. It was out of my mind, right? And the state of Maryland saw fit to free me from addiction again. I guess God used them. And I knew what to do when I came back this time. You know, I knew it was going to be about staying clean and about humility. You know, it wasn't about pumping an ego up. It wasn't none of that stuff. And of course, you know, it's hard to stick with that kind of thing. I've definitely had my share of character defects around here, and still do. One of the things I looked up when I read the definition for balance, it talked about an even distribution of weight, enabling someone to remain upright and steady. That was like the first definition, right? And when I read that, I started thinking about all the people that I've seen go out for one more hit and die. And people that aren't upright anymore, at its most basic definition. Like, that really made me kind of sad. I know quite a few people that have come around and just couldn't stay. And they don't have the opportunity to come back around, right? And I consider myself very blessed, and I'm very grateful because I don't make all the right decisions. I've made a lot of mistakes around my recovery. I've hurt people. I've caused a lot of shame and guilt to myself, but I haven't had to use. And like, that's one of the things I'm thankful for, because I just as easily could have been one of them people. You know, a lot of times I sit in a meeting and I'll hear the message, and it's one of my favorite messages to hear. I mean, it breaks my heart for when it happened, but people will share about stealing their kids' Christmas gifts or something like that. And I got kids now, and guess what? I know that's me. And that message keeps me clean quite a lot of days. I don't want to be that guy. Like, and I will be. I know that. It's only through staying here that I had the option not to be that guy. Because once I go out there and pick one up, the compulsion takes over, and there ain't no balancing out being a father and being an addict. Like, that ain't going to work for me. It's hard. It's hard to find balance. Balance is a moving target, I've always heard. You know, it never stays still. And as soon as I think I got somewhere where I got it all figured out, that like my family's going to get this many hours of my life, and NA's going to get this many hours of service, and this is going to get this many hours, like it changes. Something always changes. You know, a new sports season starts for my kids, and I got to like figure out how to get to those games. Like they had a playoff game tonight in basketball, and I felt a little bad about missing it. You know, but they've had a game every night this week, and I can't be at all of them. Like it just don't work that way. I got to understand the give and take of all this. I got the two of them. The other two I had to miss, one for here and one for my home group. NA's got to come first, man. You know, I don't like to miss a lot of stuff that my kids do, but if I don't put my recovery in first, I don't have nothing. Like I know that today. I know if I go back out and pick up a drug, life ain't going to be what it is today. And my life's pretty good. One of the other definitions was the condition in which different elements are equal or in the correct proportions. And like that made me think a lot too, because I always think of balance as everything being equal. You know, okay, NA's going to get 3 hours, my kids are going to get 3 hours, my homework will get 3 hours. Like, it don't have to be equal all the time. It's got to be in the correct proportions. Like, maybe my family needs a few more hours this week. You know, maybe NA needs a couple extra hours this week out of me. Like, maybe, who knows what it is. I got to adjust as it goes. I got to go with harmony and go with the flow of life. Like I can't always be fighting against it, which is what I've done most of my life, because I want to give these 3 hours here, damn it. Don't y'all know? Like I want to do that. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to make it fit in like this puzzle piece, the damn square block that don't fit in a round hole. I'm just going to keep banging because that's what I do. I'm an addict. But what if I just go with it? If I just let it happen? Like the balance comes itself. Life is already balanced. That's what I had to understand. Life is already balanced. The part I don't like is that it's not what I want. You know? I'm the one fighting against it. It already works. It works itself out every time. I have yet to get into a situation where I came out on the other end and said that didn't work out. Like, it always does. No matter what. And the only painful part of that process is me fighting against it. That's it. It always works out if I just let it. Some of the things I got to balance, man, is work and play, you know, because I will easily get hooked on either one. I've definitely had the times in my recovery where I've worked 70 hours a week, 7 days, right? And I do it for 3 months straight, and I'm not happy at all. I'm miserable. Miserable completely. I'm not doing anything. I don't want to live to work. You know, I heard that said. I don't want to live to work. I want to work to live. Like, I want to enjoy my life. My life today is about being happy inside and, like, smiling and joking. And I've also done the other side of it. I've just been all play. I decided I was going to be irresponsible and not work for a while and be laid off and sit at home and not do anything. And I end up with, like, a sink full of dishes and no clean clothes and wearing the same pair of pants for a week. And it's not happy either, you know, because I feel like crap about myself when I don't step up and do the things that I don't feel like doing. When I don't feel like doing the dishes and yet I just get up and take that first step toward the sink and I do them, I feel good. I feel good when it's done, and it's never that bad. Sing myself a song while I'm doing them or whatever. People make fun of me. Like I mentioned before, I got to balance the fellowship in my family. Like, I got to show up for my kids. That's highly important to me. And it's one of those things I've struggled to do throughout my recovery, is to say no when people ask me to show up for things. You know, can you do this meeting? Can you be here? Can you help out with this? And, like, my first inclination is always to say yes because I want people to like me. You know? But what I've found lately is I've been assisted into a very nice place where I kind of like myself. And I don't have to say yes to people. You know? And sometimes it takes me hours to text you back. Sometimes it takes me days to call you back. It happens. Like, I put my phone down. I'm not one of those people that's connected to it. I don't even like having it. I'd have it off right now, but there's no clock in here. But I'm just not one of them people. And, like, people get upset with me. that I don't have time for them, that I don't have time. You know what? I don't. Like, I got priorities today, right? And what I do makes me happy. It feels balanced in my life. I give back when I can and to the best of my ability. And that's what I got. Another thing I had read about today was the balance of holding on and letting go. Like, that's one I definitely struggle with. You know, when do I let go? How hard to fight for something? When am I sticking my hands in it and it's my will and not God's will, right? It's tough to figure all that out. That's where our steps come into play. Like, the steps are the one thing that's brought me balance in my life. You know, I worked step 1 and I realized I already knew that, like, I was powerless over my disease. Well, I knew I was powerless over my drug use, I'll say that. I didn't know I was powerless over my disease till I got here and started being powerless over every other damn thing I ran into that I wanted to use obsessively. But the part I didn't realize was, like, I kept thinking that if I was powerless, like, one day I would have the ability to manage my life. Like, just one day. Like, I'm going to work these steps and then I can manage my life, or maybe I'll get 10 years and then I can manage my life. Or there's going to come a time I'm going to be able to manage my life. I just know it. And if that does come, I haven't seen it yet. I can tell you that. Like, my life is unmanageable by myself. When I drift away from Narcotics Anonymous, when I don't hit as many meetings, when I don't call my sponsor regularly, when I don't run my ideas past my network and I just start doing things, I'm out of my mind. Like, I can't consistently make good decisions. It's just not in my nature. I think that's part of my disease. I'll make a few good ones in a row, and then somewhere along the way, I'm like in Vegas with strippers or something. I don't know what the hell happened. But I needed to recognize that my life was unmanageable. And recognizing that led me to a little bit of balance, just a little bit, because I could say, man, I don't know what I'm doing, so, like, let me call somebody else that's, like, been here and has some kind of idea of what might be a good thing to do in this situation. The second step, man, I got that one wrong for a long time. You know, I thought that at some point I was going to be restored to sanity, and that's just not going to happen. Like, I don't believe that's ever going to happen. I thought it was at some point in time. I'm out of my mind. I kept waiting for the longest time for that first thought to change. I kept waiting. After a few years, I was like, man, I'm going to have a drug dream and I'm going to say no in the dream. Or, you know, my first thought when somebody does something that disrespects me isn't going to be to run over them with my car. You know, like, that's not going to happen. Like, I'm always going to think that crazy thought, right? The sanity that I do get restored to is the fact that I don't do it, right? I haven't run anybody over in recovery yet. Hopefully I keep that record going. But it's the belief in a higher power that has allowed me to be restored to some kind of sanity in my actions. It's the belief that I'm not God. It's the belief that something else is out there that is bigger and greater and smarter than me, and it's got a better plan than I do for me. You know? And once I can trust in that, I can let life be what it is. And that provides a little bit of balance inside. The third step, man, I thought the third step was going to be the 11th step. I really did. Even though it says right in the reading the third step is not the 11th step, I was like, they don't know what they're talking about. I know better than the people who wrote this book and worked the steps. And I really thought afterwards I was going to, like, turn my life over to God and shave my head and move to a temple and be a monk or something. I don't know. I couldn't get down with being a priest because that was like the time when they were molesting all the kids or whatever, so I was like, had to go to monk route. But it didn't work like that. Like, I worked a step and I waited for this, like, beam to shine down from heaven, and, you know, and nothing happened. And, like, I didn't feel any different, and I was kind of upset by that because I thought it was going to fix me. But it didn't. It didn't fix me at all. But what it did do was gave me the ability to, when I choose to, on whatever given day, if I want to, not try to force my will on life, right? And just let life be as it is. That's the balance I found. It's letting life be as it is. You know, the fourth step I was nervous about because there was some stuff in there I didn't want to tell nobody. And I got through the fourth step and I thought it didn't really fit none of the questions. I was like, man, I got away with one. I'm taking this stuff to the grave. And then, like, the question before the last or something is there anything you've left off that you think belongs on here? I said, man, they dope feed me. They made me do all this writing. Like, if that was the first question, I probably would have never did the 4th step, right? But once I worked all them I had like 8 pages of writing, man. I was definitely going over that thing now. Like, I did all this damn work. I'm sure I'm going over it. So I went to go over it. And of course, it was like the last thing I had to share with my sponsor, and it was just about the fact that like I wasn't no tough guy when I was growing up, because my idea of a man was that you had to be tough and you had to do this and you had to fight, and like I was always way too scared, man. I was paralyzed by fear. I got punked by a lot of people when I was little. I got picked on, and like I didn't want to tell nobody that. It was embarrassing to me, right? But I shared that with my sponsor, and like he shared some things about what he thought it was to be a man in his life and this, that, and the other. And like his stuff didn't seem like a big deal to me, and my stuff didn't change the way he felt about me. So it was like a little bit of balance that maybe, just maybe, I'm a human being like everybody else. Maybe, just maybe, I'm not like this person that doesn't belong here and doesn't fit in. The 5th step, I got to look at the exact nature behind the things I did, and all my life is based in self-centered fear. Totally caught up in myself, worried about how you guys are going to look at me, so I try to control and manipulate people and situations so that I come out looking a certain way. Like, that's what I spent my life doing, even clean. And when I can let go of that self-centered fear and say, y'all are going to think of me what you think of me, that provides balance. I don't have to spend 23 hours out of my day worried about what everybody else is thinking about me. Because half the time, y'all probably ain't thinking about me at all. Or more. Maybe more than half. In the 6th step, I knew I had some character defects, right? I did not know I had like 27 of them. And that was only because there was 27 on the list my sponsor gave me. There was probably, if you had a list of 304 of them, I probably got 303 and a half. What's up, man? But I started writing them down, and look, y'all said that you wrote the 6th step down and you saw these character defects and you were real aware of yourself and it made you miserable. And I said, you know what, that's just not going to happen to me. I've already heard your story. I won't allow that to happen. And it happened. Like, I ain't got no control over nothing. And I became miserable, and I started to see that, like, what I did was I strived for perfection, and if something went wrong, I couldn't accept the fact that I wasn't perfect, so I just blamed y'all. I would like drop my phone and be like, "Damn it, Ron, why you looked at me that funny way and I dropped my phone?" Like, what? How did Ron make me drop a phone? I drop a piece of toast or whatever, and I'm cussing somebody out. Like, I dropped the toast, I dropped my phone. Like, it ain't nobody else. And I started to see that I was human. I started to see I wasn't perfect, and what that allowed me to do really was to step back and let other people be human. Like, for the first time in my life, I wasn't holding anybody else to this ridiculous standard, right? Because I would hold everybody else around me to that, and they were miserable because they couldn't live up to it. And here I am thinking I'm living up to it, and I'm like, I can only imagine. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, the 7th step, I get there by trying in the 6th step to remove my own character defects, and I can't. And I beat my head against the wall, and I keep saying, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that. And in the 7th step, I finally realized, man, I ain't got no control over this. Let me ask for this to be removed. Let me ask for help, right? And what I've really come to ask for is I've asked for God to remove my self-centered fear. Because truly, that's why I act on all my character defects. I want this, I want that, so that I don't look a certain way. So I got to try to use my character defects and survival skills to make me come out some other way at the end of it. And when God removes my self-centered fear, He removes the ability for me to feel like I need to act on my character defects. When I'm not scared of my girlfriend going out and cheating on me, I don't have to be a jealous asshole, right? What I also learned about the 7th step is it isn't just sitting back and letting God like do His thing and then judging how well He's doing. Because I would sit back and I'd act out on character defects and be like, what the hell? You ain't take that, man. You're supposed to get that. And like, I need to do my part. I don't need to worry about the character defect comes out or not. I need to try my best to insert a spiritual principle in the situation, and if nothing else, just shut my mouth, right? And when I don't do that, I need to go and make my amends. I need to apologize. The 8th step and 9th step doesn't seem that scary to me because I was like a real slow step writer. So by the time I got to them, I kind of made a lot of living amends, just being clean and responsible on a daily basis. So I made my list, and of course my sponsor. Thank God for sponsors, man. I'd have done a lot of stupid stuff around. I'd have done a lot more stupid stuff around here if it wasn't for my sponsor. But he got to suggest to me that once we got to 9, like, don't go making amends to all your ex-girlfriends. You don't need to hunt down people on Facebook and like tell them how sorry you are for cheating on them if they don't know already. You don't need to, and also not just that, but it's wherever possible. Because I would run into somebody at Walmart and think that I needed to apologize, and they got like their husband and 3 kids with them, and I'm like talking about something that don't even matter no more, And my motive was always wrong anyway. My motive was I wanted to get in touch with them, like see how they were doing. So how you been? And what I learned was through the first 9 steps, 1 through 3 got me in touch with a higher power so that I could deal with the painful part of looking at myself in 4 through 7 and seeing an honest look of who I really am, because that hurt, right? So thankfully I was in touch with a higher power, and I had some friends in the program. I worked 4 through 7 and figure out a little bit of who I am, and then I get to work 8 and 9 and like get back in touch with humanity, right? And then 10 allows me to keep in touch with who I am on a daily basis. At any given time, I can stop during my day and say, man, are these really is my motive right here? Why am I arguing about this? Why am I going this little bit too far to prove this point to somebody and making up like a magazine I never read before that says it had this information in it? Y'all don't do that? Step 11 allows me to stay in touch with my higher power. It allows me to pray and meditate. And I missed that for a long time, the meditation part of that. Meditation is important to me, man, because when I can still my mind a little bit, when I can just sit still, something happens there. There's some balance and some peace in that I didn't get for a lot of years around here, because I was go, 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 go. Because as long as I was go, 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 going, I wasn't going to get high. I wasn't going to think about not liking me as long as I was busy. But now I can actually have the ability to sit still and just sit still. And it's nice, man. And 12 gives me the ability to stay in touch with the rest of the world. I get to show up and be of service when I'm asked. I get to show up here. I get to show up when people ask me to share a meeting. I get to be a sponsor today, which is an awesome blessing, and definitely is I don't think I'd be clean without sponsorship. Not only just my sponsor, but the fact that guys have asked me to sponsor, it always comes at the time when my recovery is lacking and I need to be in meetings. And they'll call me up and say, man, well, what should I do? And I'm like, oh, you need to do a 90-90, you need to write some steps. I'm like, damn, I got to do that stuff too. That sucks. I'm a hypocrite if I just keep telling them. So that always keeps me in check. Life is good. Life is really good for me today. I got 4 kids, which I never expected. And I can't say they were planned. They weren't unplanned, though, apparently. But it turns out I like being a dad, and it's fun. And I get to smile with them and joke with them. And then basically I get to act like a 6-year-old all over again, which is kind of cool, and tell fart jokes and laugh with each other. And, balance today is just letting life be what life is. I don't have to run around to prove nothing to nobody. I enjoy my life, right? And that's the part that matters. I show up for the people that matter to the best of my ability. I make mistakes. I try to correct them. That's the balance of my life. I can't put all my eggs in one basket. I can't put all my time and energy into any one thing. I just got to show up and do all the things that I do. One of the main things I've learned about balance, and the key for me, is not to hop from one side of the seesaw to the other. Today, when I realize that things don't seem centered and things don't seem in place, I can just take a step towards the center. I don't have to make that jump to the extreme to the other side. And through taking a couple of steps towards center, it adjusts slowly instead of drastically. That's the main key I've learned from my recovery, is just make small adjustments. See how they feel, And then if it's not enough, I can make some more adjustments. I can reevaluate. I don't need to fix things overnight. This is a process, man. I'm always going to be searching for balance, It was mentioned earlier, you thought balance was something for people with 10 years. And I was sitting up here thinking balance must be something for people with 20 years. But then my sponsor tells me he ain't got it either. So I'm like, damn, I guess 30? I don't know. I don't think it comes. I think life just gets a little peaceful. And once I got some balance inside myself, that goes outwards. You know? I don't need to force things today. I don't live in a self-centered fear that makes me try to control and manipulate my world to be what I want it to be. Like a lot of days, I can just let life be what it is, even when I don't like it. You know, and sometimes it hurts, sometimes it's joyful, but like, it's always pretty cool to be on this side and not out there using. And I'll take that balance any day. Thanks for letting me share.
Okay, I would like to thank Olivia and Jason for sharing. And we have